Alright, so back in 1998, during the beginning of the Raccoon City outbreak, we see UBCS, Umbrella's private army, moving towards that chaos. And they've got no idea what the situation is. All they're told is that the city is under total lockdown. Their orders are to evacuate Umbrella execs and government personnel only from the city. They are also given clearance to shoot and kill literally anybody else. And hearing this, some members are stunned. Arriving, of course, it's pure chaos and panic is everywhere, but what we do, because we've already seen how this plays out, is we shift to the aftermath of that violence, where only a handful of team members from Umbrella's private military survived, but only barely, and not for long because they've all been bitten. All but two. One officer contacts his superior and reports the status of his fellow teammates, now locked in the freezer. But his superior tells him a very cold and definitive order: to quarantine the survivors as they are going to be denied evacuation. But soon, the two officers would receive new orders to dispose of any and all infected, no exceptions. Reluctantly, one of them raises his weapons to comply. However, his partner would try to stop him, and then the situation would escalate even further because now, the rest of the squad has already turned into zombies. Still, his friend desperately stands in the way, refusing to accept the order to murder people that they know. But the soldier breaks free and opens fire on the infected team anyway, saying that he would feel even guiltier if he let them free. His partner drops to the floor, frozen in fear, covering his ears as the gunfire echoes around him. He lets out a prolonged scream to stop it. Back in the present, Leon receives urgent intel. Hunnigan informs him about somebody named Dr. Antonio Taylor, who used to do research working for the US military, but is now wanted for espionage and working with enemies of the nation. Recently, he's been kidnapped by a heavily armed unknown group. Being shown the CCTV footage of the van that he was thrown in, Leon spots the suspect van passing by, so he accelerates and gives chase. But it's not going to be that easy, because out of nowhere, another biker would attack him from behind. Shooting back and forth, racing into a tunnel, the attacker drops cars from a truck up ahead, turning the road into a death trap for Leon. However, he skillfully dodges the falling cars and continues chasing. Soon he would get in front of his adversary and shoot her tires. The woman then uses the truck as a ramp and launches herself straight onto Leon's bike. He would struggle to shake her off, but she wall runs off the side of a truck, repositioning herself in front of him, stepping on his brakes. As a consequence, the bike would flip and Leon is somehow safely thrown onto the ground. As usual, he's unharmed and recovers, but his assailant and the van are long gone. And so then we pick up with a man who is looking at the corpse of a beached orca. Its head has been bitten off. She starts to examine the wound, noting that whatever did this couldn't have been any shark, because sharks don't mess with orcas, and judging by the radius of the bike, if it was a shark, it's gotta be the biggest one on the planet. At night, Jill infiltrates a house despite direct orders not to go there without backup. Over comms, she's told that this is a bioweapon-related situation, so she needs to stand down and wait for support. But Jill isn't like that, so she decides to search for survivors on her own, and so she moves through the house quietly, reaching the second floor and entering a bedroom. There she'd find blood splattered all across the wall, and as she steps closer, she notices a body on the floor. She kicks it, checks to see if it's alive or moving, then she turns it over and realizes that she is too late. She then leaves the room, but suddenly a zombie attacks her from the shadows. She struggles to keep it from biting her. Honestly, it was a good fight, very realistic in the fact that she didn't immediately just have a perfect shot lined up. Going over the ledge, landing on a glass table, she quickly recovers and places 3 in its head. Moments later, backup arrives. Chris wonders why she didn't wait. Jill says she couldn't. Not if there was a chance that she could have saved somebody. So, taking things over to HQ, Chris speaks with Rebecca about the events of the previous night. He tells her that the city now has 12 confirmed cases. Rebecca, who was looking into this as well, explains that the test results show all victims were infected with an enhanced version of the T-virus. She further adds that needle marks instead of bite marks were found, and most notably, they didn't turn into zombies immediately. Instead, they died from their injuries. This confirms that the virus is not airborne and not spread by bites. Moreover, in the discussion of Jill, Rebecca advises him to be patient. reminding him that Jill has been through a lot. After being brainwashed by Wesker and all the trouble that she caused, she's just trying to make up for all of it. So Chris goes and he finds Jill releasing her frustration at the firing range. He came here to tell her that he wanted her off the case, that she needs time off. But Jill says that if Chris were in her boots, he'd be doing the same exact thing. And then she starts talking about when she was being controlled by Wesker. She divulges that she was fully conscious and aware of everything that was happening, saying that all she wanted to do in that moment was kill Chris and everyone, but that it was like a nightmare because she could do absolutely nothing to stop herself. But she insists that now she is fine on all fronts. Elsewhere, a mysterious man slowly walks up to Taylor. He congratulates the doctor on successfully creating a working prototype. He calmly pounds the floor with his cane in steady rhythm, then he takes out his 6-shooter and plays roulette of the Russian kind. Click. The doctor sighs a sigh of relief but shudders with fear still. The mysterious man says fate has decided that he is going to die another way. Turning around, it's Dylan, the UBCS officer we saw at the beginning of the story. He turns the gun on himself and pulls the trigger again. It clicks silently. Later, Chris and Jill meet up with Claire, who shows them a map of the island named Alcatraz over in San Francisco. She explains that the surrounding waters are designated as a national marine sanctuary. However, recently, multiple tracked whales have gone missing in that area. Becca brings up a list of said infected victims and points out the one thing that they all shared, the one thing they all have in common. Every single one of them visited Alcatraz. The island is open for tourists, so Chris, Jill, and Claire immediately set out to go, leaving Rebecca behind so that she can develop a vaccine for this virus. At the same time, alarms echo through the facility as Taylor tries to make his escape. Somewhere nearby, Dylan calmly waits, expecting Chris, Jill, and Claire's arrival. Soon, inside of Alcatraz, the three walk amongst the tourists. The atmosphere feels tense, like something's about to pop off. Suddenly, a man screams as a zombie bites him. Chris instantly reacts, rushing forward to put a bullet in the head, but it's only getting started as hell begins to break loose. A nearby YouTuber instantly turns into a zombie. Panic explodes. Jill engages immediately, wrestling with one of the infected and taking it out. Nearby, Claire pulls an injured woman to safety and leads her along with other survivors inside of an empty cell. They push a table against the door trying to barricade it, but still the effort fails. They push through and force their way inside. And then Claire turns around and sees that the woman she just saved turns into a zombie, despite never having been bitten. Seeing this, Claire freezes in shock. Outside the cell block, Jill continues fighting without slowing down. A prison guard nearby is overpowered and the floor beneath them collapses, so Jill jumps to the floor below, taking no fall damage, and she saves that guard. However, as the last zombie falls, the guard would stagger. His eyes glaze over and it attacks, forcing Jill to fight for her life. On the other hand, Chris is above the chaos, pulling civilians to safety, but the infected just keep coming. Immediately back to Jill, she regains her footing and sees the prison corridors, moving deeper into Alcatraz. In another part of the facility, Dylan talks morality, stating that there are no morals when it comes to the food chain. Dylan is suffering from PTSD, and so here we see him thinking about the outbreak back in 1998. He's in that small room with his best friend JJ, quarreling whether or not they should kill their own colleagues. Suddenly, a zombie breaks through the glass and bites him. However, JJ keeps shooting until all of the infected are dead. Dylan radios in, reporting 2 survivors left, one bitten, one bleeding badly. But again, the reply comes cold and direct. Evacuation is denied until they terminate all infected, no exceptions. Hearing this, the two begin to just look at each other. Pressure starts to build, but JJ doesn't want to die, so they fight. In the middle of the struggle, JJ empties rounds into Dylan's leg, explaining why he walks with a cane now. They fall to the floor and JJ starts scattering around looking for his weapon, but then he stops, turning around to see that Dylan has his gun pointed at him. The two just stare at each other, quivering, exhausted, not wanting any of this to happen, but we go back to the present where Chris and Claire are trying to reach Jill over comms. But they hear nothing, until a sudden noise comes from behind them. Both turn quickly and Chris opens a cabinet to find Dr. Antonio Taylor hiding in fear. Picking up back with Jill, she's moving through the sewers. Water drips around her as she advances slowly, and then she sees the shadow of somebody up ahead. She moves forward to intercept to try to get the drop on them, but they attack her first. After a brief fight where they somehow don't see each other's faces, they stop and realize that they know each other. Leon's own mission to find Dr. Taylor has brought him here to Alcatraz. Now, as they're talking, zombies would appear from the darkness. Leon fires first, dropping several of them. Then he tosses Jill a gun. Before either can speak, a licker would jump out of the water. It slowly creeps over, trying to find them. Leon and Jill stay perfectly still. Unluckily, though, an object falls and everything breaks loose. Before the creature can attack, Leon kicks it and starts shooting. The duo run for their lives as more lickers emerge. One of them uses its tongue to grab Jill and start dragging her back, but Leon is able to pull her free. They keep running until they reach the edge of the tunnel, but they still have many lickers following them, so Leon pushes Jill aside and kicks a gas canister towards them and then fires at it. The tunnel is engulfed in great balls of fire. Meanwhile, Chris and Claire move through another section of the prison, and they're with Dr. Taylor. Claire asks who he is, and he introduces himself as Tony, hiding his true identity. Chris and Claire introduce who they are, with Claire mentioning she's from TerraSave. They had only looked away for a second, but when they turned back, Taylor was gone. Suddenly a cry for help echoes nearby, and they rush towards that sound to find Taylor cornered by a zombie. Chris takes it down, but then two more zombies rush in. Claire flips a table, then uses it to crush them, and then Chris kills the last one with his raw strength. In the end, Taylor survives and he apologizes for calling Claire a terrorist, surprised that she even saved him after he insulted her. Chris weighs in on this, saying that even if they were bad guys, they would still help. Back to Jill and Leon, he explains that the tunnels were once used to move ammunition back when Alcatraz still functioned as a fortress. As they continue to converse and realize that their cases are probably connected, he notices a draft in the sewers. Pulling away loose bricks from the wall, he discovers a hidden passage. Without hesitation, they step inside, and the passage opens up into a chamber holding large tanks filled with mutated creatures. They're suspended in fluid and barely moving. They realize Dr. Taylor's been busy making these monsters. Meanwhile, something would move unseen towards the mess hall where Chris and Claire were looking for any more zombies. It stings Claire first. She collapses in pain, and then it flies over to Chris and stings him too. Taylor sees this, aware of what this is, takes the opportunity, and runs. He charges towards the stairs, but then he stops, because Maria is there. Back with Jill and Leon, they reach an area resembling a submarine dock. But after looking around, Leon says it's no longer being used as just a dock, it's being used as an armory. But moving back to headquarters, Rebecca is talking to Hunnigan, saying that she lost contact with the others, and Hunnigan explains that somebody hacked into the DoD and they started looking for bioterrorism cases linked to Raccoon City. The intruder stole classified data on Leon, Chris, Jill, and Claire. Hearing this, Rebecca realizes that this entire operation was a trap. Back inside the prison, Jill and Leon enter a control room, and Leon studies the screen explaining that they are monitoring biodrones, a field that matches Dr. Taylor's expertise. And when they come to this realization, Dylan's voice comes booming through the speakers. He welcomes them calmly and invites them to meet him in the main prison block. He goads them, saying that Chris and Claire are already there. Back at HQ, Rebecca carefully prepares the vaccine she made and packs it into a secure case. Knowing that her friends could be in trouble, she's being escorted to Azkaban. So, when they get to the main prison block, they find Chris and Claire, but they're both looking pale and worn. They're both infected, and they're going to be zombies soon. And then, Leon spots Dr. Taylor, and he exposes his real identity, causing Claire to frown in confusion at his earlier deception. Suddenly, the lights snap on, and Dylan reveals himself. He begins to explain how people are becoming infected without bites, but before anybody can react and before he continues, Leon is stung by a biodrone. Exhibit A. Dylan points out that he controls these drones. They're the size of a fly, and he says that once they have a target, they always deliver. And then Maria steps forward, showing everybody that she is now working with Dylan. Ever since the events of last year, she's held a vendetta against them for killing her father. So while Chris, Claire, Leon, Jill, Rebecca all believe that they're doing the right thing and serving the people, serving the greater good, Dylan comes out and says, no, you're not protecting them. You're protecting corporate executives who profit from all the chaos. You are the ones enabling them to continue the cycle. You aren't saving anybody. And then he recalls the painful memory of JJ, his former partner. Again, we see the flashback. JJ is pleading for his life, but Dylan pulls the trigger. But because it was empty, all they heard was a click. So JJ frantically starts looking for his weapon again, but as soon as he obtains it, Dylan comes up right above him and smacks him in the face with a toolbox. He attacks him and brutally bashes his face in, killing him. No emotion on his face whatsoever. Back in the present, his voice hardens as he declares hatred for the world, where money and power is what decides what is right and wrong. This is a problem, so he intends to solve that problem by wiping the slate clean using the virus. But he's not going to kill everybody. He's only going to kill select people. In fact, the reason that Jill isn't infected right now is because Dylan wants her to experience the pain of having no choice but to kill your friends. He warns Jill to watch Claire closely, saying that she's about to turn. Dr. Taylor is also in the same cell with her, and so he starts worrying about his own life. So he begs Jill to shoot Claire to save him, and Jill is thinking about what to do. But Dylan isn't done talking yet. He berates each of them. Leon for working for the people who hide the truth, Claire for supporting a group of people who only offer band-aid solutions but never are willing to do what it takes to cut evil off at the neck. He accuses Chris of sacrificing teammates on every single mission he goes on, and Jill of relying too much on emotion instead of logic. He starts projecting his own insecurities onto everybody else, revealing that he did his duty and his superiors forced him to kill his best friend. Now, he's forced to carry that guilt forever. And soon, his biodrones are going to spread suffering across the world so that everybody knows what he feels. This is his vengeance. But moving along outside, Rebecca and her escorts reach Alcatraz. But as they arrive, they notice something coming towards them in the water. Now at first they prepare for impact, but then they start shooting, because what comes out at them is this massive, mutated shark. While her team fights the creature, Becca is able to slip away and enter the facility carrying the vaccine with her. Back inside, Dylan fires at Dr. Taylor. Seeing this, Jill steps in to threaten Dylan, but Maria quickly restrains her. Leon desperately throws a flashbang, blinding their attackers briefly, and Jill uses this moment to break free. In all of this confusion, Maria tries to go after them, but Dylan stops her, saying that they're already infected, so it's pointless. Claire would try to stop Taylor's bleeding, but he tells her to focus on herself. However, she insists that even if they can't stop the virus, they can still save a life by stopping the bleeding. But Taylor says he's done so much evil that it's better to just give up on him. So then Leon reminds him that they've all had to do things that they're not proud of. Chris would also say that the world might be broken and easy to destroy, but doing what's right despite all of that, even if it's the hardest thing, that's what they need to do. But then Taylor asks them one more question. How can you guys stay so calm even in the face of death? And they all say, because we have Jill. However, after some time, Taylor, still dying, would give something to Claire. He tells her that it is a code key to a backdoor in the network for the bioweapons, a last resort if things went wrong. He passes it to Claire and wishes her luck before quietly dying. Pressing on, Jill runs into Rebecca in the dark tunnels. She has the vaccine, but it's only effective if people haven't turned yet, so she needs to hurry. She tells Rebecca where to go, and Jill heads towards the incubation tanks. Meanwhile, Dylan takes a syringe and orders Maria to open the floodgates. As this is happening, time is ticking for the rest of the group. But Rebecca arrives. First, she heals Leon, who immediately gets up and gets going. Then she heals Chris and Claire. They rise together and look forward, ready to help their friends. Soon, Leon would be confronted by Maria. She's happy that the virus didn't kill him, as she wanted the satisfaction of doing it herself. Also, Jill confronts Dylan, urging him to give up since the others have already been cured, but Dylan isn't surprised. He says it doesn't even matter, because soon the world is going to realize there is no such thing as justice or morals. And then he says solemnly that this is his chance to atone for killing his friend. And then, without hesitation, he injects himself with the virus, letting himself fall into the water. And as he sinks, the zombie megalodon eats him. Back on the surface, Leon is struggling against Maria, who keeps on overpowering him. He's doing his best, but he's getting his butt handed to him on a silver platter. He's getting kicked, he's getting thrown around, punched, crashing to the ground, but eventually, Leon would land a solid punch, followed by a spinning back kick. That kick was strong enough to send her flying feet away into a broken metal pipe. It penetrates and kills her. Moments later, everybody assembles in the armory. But then something emerges from the water. It's Dylan, who is now fused with the creature to become an even more magnificent monster. The 5 of them load their weapons, ready for battle. Dylan makes the first move, but they all dodge. Leon responds by shooting a crane's hook, latching it into the creature's face. Rebecca and Claire fire rockets while Jill and Chris join in with heavy firepower, but this has got to be the biggest creature in all of Resident Evil history, and so their attacks aren't doing enough. Seeing that this is going to take a while, Leon orders Claire and Rebecca to use the code from Taylor to stop the biodrones from getting out into the world. Leon drives a tanker, then drops a grenade in it before letting it collide with the monster, but Dylan is still standing, unaffected. Soon, Claire and Rebecca would access the network. Inside the system, Claire overrides the drone programming and switches it to manual mode. She's just about to reach for the shutdown button, but right before she does, Rebecca stops her, arguing that since they have control of the drones now, they might as well try and use them as weapons. Back to the fight, Dylan is still alive and dangerous. Jill is thrown off by an attack, but she stumbles upon a plasma rifle. She tells the other 2 to lure the creature closer, saying that the plasma rifle fires at 20,000 degrees, it'll melt anything, but it is short range. So together they use a truck and bait the creature towards her. When the creature comes near, she charges the rifle and then fires. The impact is huge, and for the first time, we see that the creature is thrown back. Jill preps another blast, but it needs time to charge. Unfortunately, she doesn't have that much time. The creature hurls her far away, and just as all hope seems lost, the creature stops. Rebecca has released the drones into the creature, disrupting its chemistry. That's why the creature staggers and starts rushing towards the water, but Chris and Leon are not going to let it leave. They devise a plan, and as they get ready, they have Jill reach the creature first and lure it away into the water. Meanwhile, the other 2 are connecting a large rocket launcher. Underwater, the creature follows after Jill. It's about to eat her, but she's able to evade. However, her bag gets caught in its mouth. She starts getting dragged, but she thinks quickly, taking out her knife and cutting herself free as the creature continues to escape. But the guys aim the bazooka at the floodgate and fire. This causes the gate to drop on the creature's neck, and at the same time, Jill sets off a charge to blow up and kill Dylan. With the battle finally over, the team celebrates its victory. Jill watches, taking it all in. The sun rises as the 5 of them sit and finally relax on this death island. They see their helicopters flying in, ready to pick them up, ready to continue their mission, ready to succeed or fail together.